Welcome back. We're here again, continuing with our interview with Pastor Rob and his first published book, Keep Striving. We're going to look into chapter 8. The title of chapter 8 is Be You for God.
Absolutely.
What caused you to write this chapter, Be You for God?
Just watching people not being themselves. Watching people practice being phony. When people are just being around the deathbed. I've had several people many times say that they wish they could have lived their life. That's telling you something. That they wish they could have lived their life.
Okay.
So that means they were living their life for somebody else and dying and not even having the benefits of living who they could have become. That to me is sad. So I had to write that chapter because it's more prevalent now. It's more prevalent. People practice phony. They do not live for God, and they do not live to be who God had created them to be. They'd rather be somebody else. They'd rather be under somebody else's shadow. So that's what that book is about. Telling everybody about poetry in motion.
Yeah.
Masterpieces.
And you talked practically about how we are encouraged, by other people. Other people see things in us and they may say, you're inquisitive, you might be a good lawyer, and they encourage us in certain ways. Who encouraged you?
Oh, a lot of people. My parents, my neighborhood fellas that were a little older than I, and I'm still hanging out with them. It's just that when you recognize people can give you guidance.
Right.
But I was blessed that when people gave me guidance and said, hey, Aaron, you could be this and you could be that. But I also knew that they understood that I had to become me. They didn't push me into something. Like there are parents who push their kids into things and it might not be what the kid wants to do. And so and now they gotta live out this path that may not really be what the path they wanted to be.
Okay.
So
Sure.
it happens all the time. I seen it when I was in college, so they was going to school for this and they really wanted to do that, but they can't do that because the parent says they were going to take the money from them because they wanted, this is what goes on.
Okay.
This is what goes on. So that book is a representation of what the experiences I've had.
Okay. So it's important to keep striving. Be you for God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Who God has created.
Now don't misunderstand me. Now in the book I also said that there's not a parent who does not want their child to be somebody.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's the ultimate goal. But there are times, unfortunately, that child may take a bad path, and it will probably bring embarrassment to the family. Just the way it goes sometimes.
It's not like it hasn't happened to some of us.
Yeah.
We've come back.
Yeah. And so that's what happens. So it doesn't mean. I want to make sure they have to read the book to understand where I was coming from. Nobody want to see their child underachieve.
No.
But there's got to be room for the child to be them too.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
As we move forward then into our next chapter, it's about not being alone. You entitled it, We're Not Alone. And I love how you talk about the ministering angels. Talk to us about ministering angels to help us.
They're all around. Angels are all around us. Their function, according to Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14, their function is to solely protect those who are heirs to salvation. they come to service for us.
Mm-hmm.
You notice what I said there? To those who are heirs of salvation.
That's a blessing.
That's the believers.
Yeah, yeah.
They service, they come to the service of us. Just the word ministering means they come to our aid. That's what ministry means.
Okay.
They come to our aid.
Mm-hmm.
And
So they're there to help us not be alone, because they're
they walk
always
with
around.
us. They walk with
Yeah.
us. They protect us. They walk with us. Even on the people's dying beds, as a minister, have to be around those who are transitioning. They have made it known that they have seen angels. The Bible even talks about Luke 16th chapter, I believe, talks about how angels carry Lazarus to paradise. So I believe all believers get carried by the angels.
Okay. Now I know you and I have talked about some situations where we have actually experienced angels.
Oh yes.
You know, do you mind sharing, or could you share a situation in which you experienced that ministering angel and how
Oh yeah.
they ministered to you?
I mean, several occasions. I was working for a group home, and I was working at Indian River School as I was on the afternoon shift at Indian River School for boys correctional facility, and I was asked to work overtime at a group home. Remember that? I was working overtime, so I went and ordered a pizza, went to the group home, and I ate one slice, and all of a sudden, I mean, just it's like this heaviness, sleepiness. I never got sleeping on midnights. I don't care how many shifts I had worked, but I found myself falling asleep, and I was sitting on the edge of the sofa. And I woke up the next morning, I was stretched out. And when I got up, my pizza box was closed. Because I remember leaving it open because I just fell asleep. And there was two young men came down the steps, and they told my supervisor, they told him, they said that Mr. Robinson was asleep. And then they said he had two people in the house. And I'm looking like, Mr. Grayson, no, I never had nobody in this house. And they was adamant there was two men in the house. So Mr. Gray said, what did they look like? And then one of the young men said, we can't describe them. All we know is when we came down, they both turned at the same time. We ran upstairs.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So they, usually if you see somebody real good,
You have a
you're going to
description,
describe them, right?
Right.
But they could not even describe these two men that was supposedly I had in the house. But me and Mr. Gray both knew that I was being protected because they were coming downstairs to do harm to the original night staff that was supposed to be on shift that night.
Okay.
And I took his place. He was coming down to do some harm to him. And so, not knowing I was going to be there, they saw, hey, I was protected
Yes,
that
you
night by
were.
two angels
Okay.
that ran them upstairs.
There it is. Wow.
And I'll never forget that.
That leads us into our last chapter. Keep striving and keep fighting.
That's right.
When you know you're not alone, you can keep
You're gonna
striving and keep fighting.
No matter who's against you.
I have read this entire book, and I honestly want to say that each chapter I've been able to find something to encourage me to keep striving, which is the title of the book.
Good.
And you don't have to wait till you get to chapter 10 entitled Keep Striving and Keep Fighting
That's right.
to have to find something to want to strive on, even in this day and hour that we're living in right now. But you open up this chapter talking about spiritually mature.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to talk to us about some practical steps and how to be spiritually mature.
Practical steps.
Practical
To
steps.
spiritually mature.
Mm-hmm.
I will start off by saying first, recognizing that there's a daily battle every day. There's two kingdoms at war, and we're in the center. You know, there's a kingdom of God that loves us, and there's a kingdom of Satan that hates us, and we're in the middle. And so one of the steps to mature is to understand that our lives are important. You know, our life is important, and just understanding you can grow and mature and understanding who really loves you, and gravitate to that kingdom. You know, and so this whole, like you said, the steps is chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7, chapter 8, and chapter 9. Okay. There's all 9 of those chapters before you get to 10 should grow you up to keep fighting and keep striving.
All right. Okay. This is Keep Striving, Pastor Robinson's first book published. He's the pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church, and he is my husband. And we're going to close out on that note, and we'll be right back.
She did good.
Thank you.